The stars burned bright against the dark void of space as Commander James stood on the bridge of his ship, the Hope's Light. His tall, blue-skinned form cast a long shadow across the polished floor. The war reports on his screen made his heart sink. Another fleet lost, another system fallen to the Void Empire. 50 years of war had taught the Alliance many things, but winning wasn't one of them. James watched the tactical replay of their latest defeat, his 4 eyes blinking in sequence as he studied the familiar pattern. The Alliance ships had formed their perfect geometric formations, followed their proven battle plans, and died just as efficiently as they had in every other battle. "Commander," his second-in-command called out, "the Council wants an update on our exploration mission." James nodded slowly. They had been searching the outer regions for new civilizations that might help turn the tide of war. Most species they found were too primitive or too peaceful to be of any use. But this sector held something different, a planet called Earth. For 3 months, James had watched the humans from orbit. At first, he had been disappointed. The humans were still fighting among themselves. Their technology was primitive compared to Alliance standards, and they hadn't even colonized their own solar system yet. But then he saw something that changed everything. In a conflict zone they called the Middle East, he watched as a small group of soldiers defeated a much larger force using nothing but clever planning and unexpected tactics. In another region, guerrilla fighters protected their homeland against a superior enemy. Across the planet's oceans, tiny boats protected massive ships from threats, showing how small forces could guard larger ones. The humans were fascinating. They didn't fight like the Alliance, with its carefully planned formations and time-tested strategies. They didn't fight like the Void Empire, with its overwhelming force and brutal efficiency. Humans fought like nothing he had ever seen before. "Display Earth footage Alpha 7, James commanded. The screen lit up with images from a human military training exercise. The soldiers were adapting their plans on the spot, changing tactics when things went wrong, and even disobeying orders when they saw better opportunities. To an Alliance commander, it looked like chaos. But James was beginning to see the beauty in that chaos. A flash of light announced the arrival of a priority message. Another Alliance fleet had been destroyed. The Void Empire was pushing deeper into Alliance space, their black ships cutting through defensive lines like they were made of paper. "Set course for Alliance Central Command," James ordered, "and prepare all our observation data on Earth." His crew looked at him in surprise. They hadn't completed their survey mission yet, but James knew they were out of time. The Alliance was losing this war because they couldn't adapt, couldn't change, couldn't think in new ways. But humans did nothing but change. As his ship entered faster than light travel, James prepared his report. The Alliance Council would be shocked by his suggestion to contact such a primitive species. They would point out that humans still burned fossil fuels, that they fought constant wars, that they weren't united under a single government. But James had seen what others hadn't. In those very flaws lay humanity's greatest strengths. Their divisions meant they had learned to fight in countless different ways. Their limited technology meant they had learned to win with less. Their constant conflicts meant they understood war in ways the Alliance never could. The Alliance needed humanity's chaos, their adaptability, their unpredictability. They needed the species that looked at a superior enemy and saw not certain defeat, but a challenge to overcome. As his ship traveled through the darkness between stars, James felt hope for the first time in years. The Alliance had been fighting this war all wrong, trying to win through perfection and protocol. Perhaps it was time to try something different. Perhaps it was time to fight like humans. The world changed on a Tuesday morning. Tom Miller was drinking his coffee at the Pentagon when the first alien ships appeared in the sky. Unlike the movies, they didn't hover over major cities or try to blow up landmarks. Instead, they just waited, holding position over the North Atlantic while the world held its breath. "Those aren't weapons locked on us," Tom said, studying the readings on his screen. As head of the Joint Special Operations Command, he had seen enough targeting systems to know when someone was aiming at you. They're defensive formations. The aliens called themselves the Alliance, and they were losing a war they couldn't afford to lose. Their ambassador, the blue-skinned Commander James, showed them the evidence on screens that floated in midair. Entire worlds burned to ash. Billions of lives ended, all by something called the Void Empire. "Your wars," James said, his four eyes blinking slowly. "They're different from ours. You adapt. You change. You survive against worse odds. We need that." The world's leaders gathered in an emergency UN session. The Russians were suspicious. The Chinese were cautious. The Americans wanted to know about the technology. But everything changed when James showed them the final video. It was footage from a world that had refused to join the Alliance. The Void Empire ships arrived like dark stars, their weapons turning cities to glass. But it wasn't the destruction that shocked everyone. It was the efficiency. The emotionless, mechanical way they harvested everything useful from the planet, storing away resources and useful technology like they were cleaning out a garage. "They'll find you eventually," James said quietly. "They find everyone. The only question is whether you'll face them alone or with allies." Tom watched the faces around the room change as they understood. This wasn't about politics anymore. This wasn't about nations or borders or old rivalries. This was about survival. "Show us what we're up against," Tom said, standing up. "Everything you know about their tactics, their technology, their weaknesses." The Alliance tactical officers brought up their battle plans. Tom and the other military leaders watched in growing disbelief. The Alliance fought like they were playing chess, all proper moves and approved strategies. Their ships formed perfect geometric patterns. Their attacks followed textbook procedures that hadn't changed in decades. "You're too predictable," Tom said, shaking his head. "War isn't about following rules. It's about making the enemy play your game, not theirs." He pulled up historical footage from Earth's wars. Submarine warfare from World War I, guerrilla tactics from Vietnam, modern special operations missions. The Alliance officers watched with a mixture of horror and fascination as humans showed them how to fight dirty, fight smart, and fight to win. "This is chaos," one Alliance officer said, his skin turning a pale blue in distress. "Exactly," Tom replied with a grin. "And chaos is exactly what you need." Earth's industries began retooling for war within days. The Alliance provided the technology, but humans provided the ideas. When Alliance engineers said something was impossible, human engineers asked why not. When Alliance tacticians said a plan wouldn't work, human soldiers showed them how to make it work. 1 month after first contact, the first Joint Human Alliance military unit was formed. Tom stood in front of the assembled troops, humans standing shoulder to shoulder with beings from a dozen alien worlds. "They expect us to fight their way," he told them. "They expect the same tactics, the same strategies, the same old dance. But that's not what they're getting. They're getting humanity's greatest gift to warfare, the unexpected." As the troops cheered, Tom looked up at the stars. Somewhere out there, the Void Empire was still counting on fighting the same old enemy. They had no idea what was coming. They had no idea about humans. The Alliance war room fell silent as Tom Miller walked to the front. On the giant screen behind him, a massive Void Empire fleet moved through space in their usual perfect formation. Their black ships looked like a wall of death against the stars. "This is how they always attack," Tom said, pointing to the display. "And this is why you keep losing." The Alliance generals shifted uncomfortably in their seats. Commander James watched from the back, his blue skin darkening with interest. He had fought these battles for years, seen countless fleets destroyed by those black ships. "What do you suggest?" James asked. Tom smiled and pressed a button. The display changed to show a new formation, or rather, what looked like no formation at all. Ships were scattered in seemingly random patterns, some alone, others in small groups. "You can't beat them at their own game," Tom explained. "So we're going to make them play ours." The first battle using human tactics happened 3 days later. The Void Empire fleet arrived at the Henderson system, expecting to find the usual neat lines of Alliance ships. Instead, they found what looked like chaos. Small, fast ships darted between asteroids. Larger vessels seemed to drift without purpose. Nothing made sense to the Void Empire commanders who had fought the same battles the same way for 50 years. They never saw the trap until it was too late. As soon as the Void ships moved into position, everything changed. The scattered Alliance ships suddenly had a purpose. Small attack groups hit the enemy fleet from multiple directions. Larger ships that had seemed abandoned revealed hidden weapons. The asteroids themselves turned out to be hiding places for hundreds of tiny, fast attack craft. "Look at their response," Tom said, watching from the command ship. The Void Empire fleet tried to reform their lines, tried to follow their standard battle plans. But they couldn't adapt fast enough to the chaos around them. For the first time in decades, a Void Empire fleet retreated in defeat. But not everyone was happy. Many Alliance commanders were horrified by the messy tactics. They complained about the lack of proper formation, the disregard for traditional battle strategies, the sheer unpredictability of it all. "This isn't how war is fought," one Alliance general protested during the next meeting. "No," Tom agreed. "This is how war is won." He showed them more human military concepts, special forces teams that could slip behind enemy lines, fake communications to confuse enemy intelligence, ships designed to look weak but hide powerful weapons. Every idea broke some Alliance rule of warfare, and every idea worked. Commander James stood up during one heated debate. "I've fought the Void Empire for 30 years, he said quietly. "I've seen countless worlds fall. And now, for the first time, I've seen them retreat. The humans aren't just fighting differently. They're making us think differently." The Alliance soldiers learned to embrace chaos. Human trainers taught them to think independently, to adapt when plans went wrong, to see opportunities instead of just following orders. It wasn't easy. Centuries of tradition don't change overnight. But with each success, more Alliance commanders started to understand. 1 month after the Henderson system battle, intelligence reported that the Void Empire was struggling to predict Alliance movements. Their perfect strategies didn't work against an enemy that refused to play by the rules. Tom stood on the bridge of his new ship, watching Alliance crews working alongside human operators. They were learning from each other. Alliance technology combined with human creativity. Alliance strength guided by human cunning. "Send the next battle plan to the fleet," he ordered. The plan was typically human, messy, unpredictable, and brilliant. As the ships moved into position, Tom smiled. The Void Empire had no idea what they had started when they forced the Alliance to seek help. They had no idea that their greatest weakness would be their inability to understand the chaos that was about to be unleashed. The factory floors stretched for miles, a sea of activity where Earth's old car assembly lines once stood. Tom Miller watched as workers built the new hybrid ships, vessels that combined Alliance technology with human design philosophy. Smaller, faster, harder to hit, he explained to Commander James, pointing at the sleek ships taking shape. "Your people build ships like floating fortresses. We're building them like speedboats with teeth." James nodded, his 4 eyes taking in everything. In just 3 months, Earth had transformed its biggest factories into warship yards. But it wasn't just the ships that were changing. The whole way of fighting was evolving. "The latest battle reports are in," James said, holding up a datapad. 3 more victories using your hit-and-run tactics. The Void Empire lost 40 ships trying to chase down our new strike groups. The new ships were everything the Alliance vessels weren't: unpredictable, adaptable, and built for aggressive maneuvers. But the biggest change wasn't in the ships themselves. It was in the minds of those who flew them. In the Alliance training center next door, human instructors were teaching alien pilots something they had never learned before: how to think for themselves in battle. The sight would have been funny if it wasn't so important. Humans standing on boxes to reach the shoulders of 8-foot-tall aliens, showing them how to fight dirty. Remember, one instructor called out, "There's no such thing as a fair fight in war. The only good fight is the one you win." But it wasn't all about warfare. Something unexpected was happening as humans and aliens worked together. Culture was flowing both ways. In the base cafeteria, Alliance soldiers had discovered human food. They couldn't get enough of it. Spicy curry, sweet barbecue, tangy sauces. After centuries of eating perfectly balanced but bland nutrition paste, the explosion of flavors drove them wild. "What is this amazing thing?" an Alliance officer asked, holding up a hot dog. "Trust me," Tom laughed. "You don't want to know what's in it. Just enjoy." Human music had spread through the Alliance fleet like wildfire. Alien crews played rock, jazz, and classical music on their ships. They said it helped them think more creatively, helped them understand the organized chaos that humans brought to everything they did. The Alliance gave back too. Their advanced medical technology healed injuries that would have been fatal on Earth. Their education systems taught humans centuries of cosmic history. Their materials science revolutionized Earth's industry. But the biggest test came at the Battle of Trinity Point. A massive Void Empire fleet threatened a crucial Alliance manufacturing world. The old Alliance would have met them head-on in a noble battle. The new Alliance had other ideas. Small, fast Earth-built ships darted through the enemy formation, breaking up their perfect lines. Larger Alliance vessels, hidden behind a moon, jumped in to hit the scattered enemy groups. Human-designed fighter craft swarmed like angry bees, too small and quick to target effectively. In the middle of the battle, something amazing happened. An Alliance commander, without asking permission, changed the entire battle plan when he saw a better opportunity. It was something that would have been unthinkable months ago. The Void Empire fleet didn't just lose. They were torn apart. "Do you understand now?" Tom asked the Alliance generals after the battle. "It's not just about the ships or the tactics. It's about learning to think differently, to adapt, to change." Commander James smiled, his skin glowing with a proud blue light. "We're not just learning to fight like humans," he said. "We're learning to think like them too." In orbit above them, Earth's factories kept building ships. On the ground, humans and aliens kept training together. And somewhere out in space, the Void Empire was beginning to realize that their perfect, predictable enemy wasn't so predictable anymore. The war was changing, one human idea at a time. The Void Empire's war room was dark, lit only by holographic displays showing their recent defeats. The Supreme Commander's black armor seemed to absorb what little light there was as he studied the battle replays. "These new tactics," he growled, "they make no sense. The Alliance never fought like this before." His officers stood in perfect formation, as they had been trained to do since birth. None wanted to state the obvious, that their perfect formations and strategies were failing against an enemy that refused to follow the rules of war. "It's the humans," one officer finally said. "The Alliance found them 3 months ago. Everything changed after that." The Supreme Commander's eyes narrowed. A primitive species from a backwater planet was destroying 50 years of perfect warfare. It was unacceptable. "Then we will remove these humans from the equation." But the Void Empire didn't understand what they were dealing with. They launched a massive fleet toward Earth, expecting to find a weak, poorly defended world. Instead, they found something else entirely. Tom Miller stood in the command center, watching the enemy fleet approach. Around him, human and Alliance operators worked together with practiced ease. The trap was set. "They still think in straight lines," he said to Commander James. "Let's show them something new." The Void Fleet encountered no resistance as they approached Earth. Their sensors showed them exactly what they expected. The main Alliance fleet gathered near Mars, ready for a traditional defense. What they didn't see were the hundreds of small ships hiding in Earth's debris field, the remains of old satellites and space junk that humans had turned into the perfect cover. They didn't detect the special operations teams that had already slipped aboard their support vessels using Alliance stealth technology combined with human infiltration tactics. The battle that followed wasn't really a battle at all. It was more like chaos with a purpose. As the Void Fleet formed up for their standard attack pattern, the hidden ships struck from all directions. Special ops teams activated inside their support ships, causing confusion and damage. The main Alliance fleet at Mars wasn't running away. They were pulling the enemy exactly where they wanted them. "Now," Tom ordered, "show them what happens when you corner a human." The debris field itself came alive. Pieces of old satellites turned out to be disguised weapons. What looked like space junk became mines. The Void Empire fleet found itself caught in a trap made from humanity's own orbital trash. But the real surprise came from deeper in the Void Fleet. The Special Operations teams, humans and Alliance soldiers working together, had reached their main target, the fleet's command ship. "This is why you're losing," one human operator transmitted to the Void command ship. "You never look for the knife at your throat because you're too busy watching the army at your door." The Void Empire had never considered such tactics. Their rigid command structure collapsed as orders stopped flowing from their flagship. Their perfect formation broke apart as ships tried to act without direct commands. The battle ended in hours. The mighty Void Fleet retreated in disarray, leaving behind damaged ships and shattered pride. In the aftermath, Tom and James watched the repair crews at work. Alliance engineers were learning human repair tricks, while human engineers marveled at Alliance technology. "They'll be back," James said quietly. Tom nodded. "Yes, but they'll be fighting our war now, not theirs. They'll be looking for traps, jumping at shadows, questioning everything. And that's exactly what we want." The Void Empire had made a crucial mistake. They had tried to eliminate the human element from the war. Instead, they had pushed humanity to do what it did best: adapt, improvise, and overcome. As the sun rose over Earth, repair crews from a dozen alien worlds worked alongside humans, making their defenses stronger. The Void Empire thought they could isolate Earth from the Alliance. Instead, they had only proved why the Alliance needed humans in the first place. The research lab was a perfect mix of human chaos and Alliance precision. Screens filled with data floated in the air, while half-finished devices cluttered every surface. Tom Miller watched as human and alien scientists worked side by side, breaking down the barriers between their technologies. "Impossible," an Alliance engineer said, looking at a human sketch. "Shield generators cannot work that way." "Why not?" asked the human engineer, taking apart an Alliance shield unit. "Just because no one's done it before doesn't mean it can't be done." That was the key that unlocked everything. Humans kept asking, "Why not?" to things the Alliance had accepted as impossible for centuries. And in doing so, they changed everything. The breakthrough came on a Tuesday afternoon. A human scientist, drinking her fifth cup of coffee, noticed something in the Alliance faster-than-light drive designs. They were perfect, efficient, and completely overlooked a basic principle of physics that humans had theorized about, but never had the technology to test. "Look," she said, pulling Commander James and Tom to her screen. "You're thinking of space like it's an ocean, with waves to ride. But what if we think of it like a piece of paper instead? Something we can fold." The Alliance scientists were skeptical, but they had learned to listen when humans had crazy ideas. 3 weeks later, the first test ship using the new drive principle made a jump that should have taken days in just under an hour. But it wasn't just faster ships. Humans looked at Alliance shield technology and wondered why the shields had to be solid. Why couldn't they flex and bend like a martial artist rolling with a punch? The resulting adaptive shield systems were 30% more effective and used half the power. "They're starting to think like us," Tom told James as they watched a group of Alliance officers brainstorming new ideas, looking for solutions instead of following protocols. The changes spread beyond the military. Alliance medical scientists working with humans discovered new ways to heal injuries. Human doctors, armed with Alliance technology, found cures for diseases that had plagued Earth for centuries. Even the Void Empire's seemingly perfect tactics became their greatest weakness. They couldn't adapt to the constant changes, couldn't counter strategies they had never seen before. Each time they learned to deal with one human innovation, 3 more appeared. "Sir," a young operator called out during one battle, "what if we used the new shield technology in reverse? Instead of keeping things out, we could contain an explosion, make it stronger." The resulting weapons turned the Void Empire's massive ships into their own worst enemy. Their huge power cores, when hit just right, created chain reactions that could take out multiple ships at once. In the Alliance Council chamber, the changes were just as dramatic. Species that had followed rigid protocols for thousands of years began to question, to wonder, to imagine new possibilities. Art began to appear in Alliance ships. Not perfect geometric patterns, but wild splashes of color inspired by human creativity. "We didn't just need their help with the war," James said, watching an Alliance crew modify their ship without waiting for official approval. "We needed them to remind us how to grow, how to change, how to live." In the research lab, another human scientist stood up excitedly. "What if we combine the new drive system with the adaptive shields? We could create ships that actually phase through attacks instead of taking the hit." Tom smiled as the Alliance scientists gathered around, asking questions, suggesting improvements. 6 months ago, they would have dismissed such an idea as impossible. Now they were helping to make it work. A report flashed on the main screen. Another Void Empire fleet defeated by tactics they couldn't predict and technology they couldn't understand. But the real victory wasn't on the battlefield. It was here, in this lab, where the impossible became possible every day. The war had started to change the moment humans joined it. But now, humans were changing the very nature of what was possible. The largest fleet ever assembled hung in space like a galaxy of stars. Alliance ships of every size and shape, mixed with Earth-built vessels, formed not in rigid lines, but in fluid, adaptable groups. At the center of it all, Tom Miller and Commander James stood on the bridge of their flagship, the Unity. "The Void Empire has pulled everything back to defend their home systems," Tom said, looking at the tactical display. "They're expecting another trick, another trap." James nodded, his blue skin glowing with anticipation. "And we're going to give them something they never expected. Everything at once." The plan was pure human thinking, scaled up to a level that would have been impossible a year ago. Every crazy tactic, every new technology, every lesson learned would be used together in one massive assault. "All ships, commence Operation Thunderstorm," Tom ordered. The battle began unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. Small, fast ships darted forward using the new phase shield technology, literally passing through enemy fire. Behind them, larger vessels used the improved fold drive to jump between points in space, appearing and disappearing like ghosts. The Void Empire fleet tried to maintain their perfect formations, but they were fighting an enemy that refused to play by any rules. Special ops teams, inserted weeks ago, began activating hidden devices throughout their defense network. Communication systems crashed. Power grids fluctuated. "Their hierarchy is breaking down," James reported, watching the enemy fleet's movements become increasingly chaotic. "They can't maintain control without direct orders from their command." That was the key to it all. Humans had taught the Alliance that true strength didn't come from perfect obedience. It came from initiative, from adaptation, from trust in your people to make the right decisions. The Void Empire's rigid structure, once their greatest strength, became their ultimate weakness. When their communications were disrupted, when their carefully planned strategies fell apart, their ships didn't know how to act independently. "Now," Tom ordered, "show them what freedom looks like." The Alliance fleet struck from every direction at once. Ships using the new fold drive technology appeared inside the enemy formation. Adaptive shields absorbed and redirected enemy fire back at them. Smaller craft swarmed like angry bees, striking at vital points with surgical precision. But the real victory came from the planets themselves. The Void Empire's conquered worlds, seeing their master's weakness, began to rise up. They had learned from watching the humans, learned that even the mightiest enemy could fall if you refused to accept defeat. The Void Empire's forces stretched thin trying to maintain control of their territory, while fighting the Alliance began to crumble. One system after another broke free. The perfect hierarchy that had maintained their power for so long collapsed under its own weight. In the final battle, the supreme commander of the Void Empire watched in disbelief as his supposedly perfect military machine fell apart. His last transmission was received by every ship in both fleets. How? How did you destroy perfection? Tom's response was simple. Perfection doesn't evolve. Perfection doesn't grow. Perfection doesn't live. The war ended not with a single dramatic explosion, but with a wave of freedom that swept across the galaxy. Former Void Empire worlds joined the Alliance, bringing their own unique perspectives and ideas. The Alliance itself had changed, becoming not just a military alliance, but a true union of different cultures and ways of thinking. On the Unity's bridge, Tom and James watched as celebration broadcasts came in from hundreds of worlds. Aliens danced to human music, while humans marveled at alien art. Children from Earth played with children from the stars. We didn't just win a war, James said quietly. We started a new age. Tom smiled, looking out at the vast fleet that had become a symbol not of military might, but of what different species could achieve together. That's the real human gift to the galaxy, he said, not our tactics or our technology, but the understanding that the best future isn't perfect. It's free to change, free to grow, free to become whatever we can imagine together. The stars seemed brighter somehow, as if they too were celebrating the beginning of something new. The war was over, but humanity's impact on the galaxy was just beginning.